The crash landing. It was a quiet night in the countryside. The wind moved slowly through the trees. A dog barked far away. Jake Walker sat alone on the front porch of his small farmhouse, sipping warm coffee. The stars above him were clear and bright. Jake lived alone. He had no family nearby. He liked the silence. It helped him forget his past life, a life full of war, noise, and pain. Now he just wanted peace. Suddenly, a loud sound broke the silence. Boom! The ground shook. Birds flew from the trees. A bright light flashed in the sky, like a shooting star, but faster, brighter. And coming down. Jake stood up. What the hell was that? He grabbed his flashlight and rifle. His military training kicked in. He knew something had crashed nearby. He ran into the forest behind his house. The trees were tall and thick. The air smelled like fire and metal. After 5 minutes of walking, he saw it. A small spaceship, broken in half, was lying in a crater. Smoke rose from it. Strange blue lights blinked on its surface. It didn't look human. The design was smooth, almost alive. Jake moved slowly, carefully. Then he heard something, crying. He pointed his flashlight toward the sound. There, lying next to the wreck, was a woman, not human, holding a small child in her arms. Her skin was silver blue. Her hair was long and white. She wore a torn suit with symbols Jake couldn't read. Her eyes were closed. She was breathing, but just barely. The child in her arms was small, maybe 5 years old. She looked scared but unharmed. Jake dropped to one knee. "Are you okay?" he asked softly. The woman opened her eyes slowly. She looked at Jake, weak and afraid. Her voice was low, broken. "Take me," she said. "Take me as your concubine." "Please," Jake froze. "What?" he whispered. The woman coughed, holding her child close. "Protect my daughter." Then she passed out. Jake looked around. He heard strange sounds in the distance, like machines moving through the trees. He picked up the woman and her child. They were light, too light for their size. He moved fast, back to his house, heart racing. Back in his barn, Jake made a bed. From blankets and old hay, he laid the woman down carefully. The child looked at him with big, glowing eyes. She didn't speak, but she held his hand. Jake tried to understand what had just happened. "Concubine? What kind of alien says that?" he whispered. He checked the woman's wounds. No blood, but strange glowing marks on her arms. The child sat quietly beside her. Suddenly, the lights flickered. Jake stepped outside to check the generator. Then he saw them. Figures, tall and dressed in dark armor, moving through the trees. They didn't walk like humans. Their movements were sharp, fast, inhuman. They were scanning the crash site with floating drones. Jake ducked behind a shed. He watched them from the shadows. One of them spoke in a strange language. A red light on its helmet blinked faster. "They're looking for her," Jake whispered. He waited until they moved deeper into the woods. Then he ran back to the barn. Woman was awake again, barely. Jake knelt beside her. "Who are they?" he asked. She looked at him with tired eyes. "Hunters. Arathan. They will kill her." Jake looked at the child. She stared back, silent. "What do they want?" The woman tried to speak but coughed again. "She is not supposed to exist. Help us, please." Jake felt something he hadn't felt in years, responsibility. He nodded. "You're safe here. I'll protect you." The woman closed her eyes and whispered, "Thank you." Suddenly, her body began to glow softly. Her skin shimmered like light passing through water. The child touched her mother's face and then looked at Jake. Then, the barn door creaked. Someone or something was outside. Jake picked up his rifle and whispered, "Stay quiet." He stepped toward the door. The child grabbed his arm. She pointed at the ground. Jake looked. There, written in glowing dust, were words. "They found us." "Who is she?" It was 3 a.m. The world outside Jake's barn was silent, but not peaceful. Jake sat on a wooden stool, watching over the sleeping alien woman and her daughter. His rifle rested across his lap. Every creak of wood or whisper of wind made him look up. His mind was full of questions. Who is she? Why did she call herself a concubine? Who is the child? And what are the Erethan? The woman was still unconscious, glowing faintly in the dark. The child, however, had not closed her eyes. She sat in the shadows, watching Jake without fear. She hadn't said a single word yet. Suddenly, she stood up. Slowly, without sound. She walked to a pile of old papers on the barn floor and picked up a pencil. Then she began to draw. Jake tilted his head. "What are you doing, kid?" The girl didn't answer. Her small hands moved quickly. Within minutes, she finished a strange picture. 3 tall figures standing in front of a barn. One of them had a red eye. Jake's blood went cold. That was the thing he saw in the woods. Before he could ask, the barn door creaked. Jake jumped up, rifle ready, but it wasn't the enemy. The woman was waking up. She sat up slowly, holding her side. Her silver-blue skin shimmered under the barn light. She looked at Jake, then at her daughter. Relief crossed her face. "You kept us safe," she said, her voice soft but clearer than before. Jake lowered his rifle. "Tried to. Don't thank me yet." The woman tried to stand, but Jake stopped her gently. "You need rest. You almost died out there," he said. She looked at her daughter. "Nia," she whispered. Jake nodded. "She hasn't said a word, but she drew this." He handed over the drawing. The woman's eyes widened. "She sees before it happens." Jake blinked. "What do you mean?" "She is a seer," the woman said. "It's rare. Only 1 in a million of my kind." Jake sat back, trying to understand. "All right, slow down. Start from the beginning. Who are you?" The woman looked at him, as if measuring his soul. Then she spoke. "My name is Valara, daughter of House Alorith, princess of Zenthari Prime. I escaped a death sentence for loving the wrong kind." Jake narrowed his eyes. "Wrong kind?" Valara nodded. "Your kind." Jake leaned forward. "You mean humans?" "No," she said slowly. "You." He froze. "What are you talking about? I'm just a farmer." Valara tilted her head. "You think you are, but your blood tells a different story." Before Jake could respond, she held out a small device. It looked like a silver coin. She pressed it to his hand. A soft light scanned his skin. The device beeped. Valara looked at the result and nodded slowly. "Hybrid markers. They experimented on humans years ago. One survived. You." Jake stepped back. "You're saying I'm part alien?" "Yes. Not by choice, I know. But that is why they want your daughter." Jake pointed to Nia. "She's not my daughter." Valara looked into his eyes. "She is now." Outside, the wind picked up. Leaves danced across the field. A strange hum echoed. In the distance, Jake grabbed his rifle again. "They're coming, aren't they?" Valara stood slowly, her strength returning. "They will never stop. The Erethan are bred to hunt and kill hybrids. My brother commands them now." "Your own brother?" Jake asked. She looked down. "Yes, I broke the royal code. I chose freedom. And life." He chose power. Jake sighed. "You aliens are more like us than you think." Valara stepped closer. "You didn't ask for this. But now you're part of it." Jake looked at Nia. She was drawing again this time. A new picture. Showed Jake holding a strange weapon, standing between Valara and a burning forest. Jake looked at it, then back at her. "She sees the future?" "She sees possible futures," Valara said, "but only one can happen." Jake took a deep breath. "All right. I don't understand half of this, but I do know one thing." He looked out the barn window, into the darkness. "If they're coming, they'll have to go through me first." The hunters, the first sound was not a footstep. It was a vibration soft, steady, unnatural. Jake felt it before he heard it. The barn walls seemed to hum, like metal reacting to energy. He stood still, every muscle tight. Velara and Nia were asleep in the corner, wrapped in old blankets. Outside, the wind had stopped. Even the crickets were silent. Jake whispered to himself, "They're here." He turned off the lantern. Darkness swallowed the room. He grabbed his rifle and crept to the door. Slowly, silently, he pushed it open. The field was empty. At first, then. From the tree line, 3 black shapes emerged. Tall, thin, moving too smoothly. Their armor shimmered like wet glass. Red lights blinked from their masks. They had no visible weapons, but they didn't need any. These were Era, then hunters. Jake had faced death before, but never like this. Inside the barn, Nia opened her eyes. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She simply stood up and walked to the center of the floor. With her small finger, she drew a shape in the dust. A circle with 3 dots. Velara woke instantly. She saw the symbol and froze. "They sent a scouter," she whispered, "and 2 executors." Jake backed into the barn and closed the door softly. "They found us," he said. 3 of them. Coming this way, Velara stood. "They will not speak. They will not stop. They are programmed to take the child or kill all." Jake looked at her. "Any weakness?" "Yes," she said. "You." Jake raised an eyebrow. "That's not comforting." Suddenly, a red beam sliced through the barn wall. A narrow hole burned through the wood. Clean and hot. The Erethan had locked onto the target. Jake grabbed Velara and Nia. "To the cellar." Now, they ran to the hidden trapdoor behind the hay bales. Just before Velara could lift it, the door exploded open. One of the executors stood in the smoke. Its head turned sideways like a curious machine. Jake raised his rifle and fired. Boom! Boom! The bullets hit but didn't stop it. The armor absorbed most of the damage. But one shot hit a joint near the neck. The creature hissed and staggered back. Velara used the moment to grab a silver object from her suit, a glowing crystal. She threw it at the ground. It burst into blue light, blinding and loud. The Erethan screamed. Not like animals. Not like machines. Like something. In pain. Jake dragged Velara and Nia through the cellar door. They ran into the tunnel beneath the barn, an old storm drain Jake had reinforced years ago. It led to the forest. Behind them, they heard movement. One of the hunters had dropped into the tunnel too. Jake stopped. "Go ahead, I'll slow it down." Velara grabbed his hand. "No, you must survive." Jake handed her a strange alien device Velara had given him earlier. "You said this protects once, right?" She nodded. "Then give it to her," he said, pointing at Nia. "She's the reason they're here." Jake turned to face the tunnel. The hunter appeared, its armor cracked from the earlier fight, but still deadly. It reached out one sharp, glowing arm. Jake remembered the wars, the chaos, the noise. And then he remembered his promise. "You're safe here. I'll protect you." He pulled a wire from the tunnel ceiling. Flash. A homemade electric trap discharged, flooding the tunnel with sparks. The Erethan jerked wildly, convulsing. It collapsed, but not destroyed. Jake turned and ran after the others. Outside the tunnel, under the trees, Velara held Nia tight. Nia was still silent, her eyes closed. "She's doing something," Velara whispered. "What do you mean?" "She's hiding us." Jake looked around. The air shimmered like heat waves. The forest felt different. Then he heard the hunter exit the tunnel. But it walked right past them, as if they were invisible. Jake's eyes widened. "She cloaked us," Velara nodded. "She's more powerful than we thought." The moment passed. Nia opened her eyes and collapsed. Jake caught her. "She's burning up." Velara touched her daughter's forehead. "She used too much energy. We need a safe place, somewhere far." Jake looked toward the mountains. I know a place. As they disappeared into the trees, another ship entered Earth's orbit silent. Black and deadly dot inside. A figure watched a screen showing Nia's face. She's alive, the figure whispered. And so is he. A metal fist slammed the console. This ends now. Nia's secret: the forest was cold and quiet, but something strange was happening under the ground. Deep beneath the roots and rocks, old machines long forgotten were waking. Up. Lights flickered. Walls hummed. A voice, soft and robotic, whispered in the dark. Royal blood detected. Activating sequence. Far above, under the trees, Jake was carrying Nia in his arms. She hadn't woken up since using her power to hide them. Her skin was hot. Her eyes were glowing behind closed lids. She's burning up, he said. She needs help. Velara walked beside him, tired but alert. She overused her mind, that power. Even full Zenfari children don't unlock it this early. Jake kept moving. You said there's a base. Somewhere in the mountains? Velara nodded. It's hidden. Your people don't know it's there. My people abandoned it. Jake looked up at the rising hills. Then that's where we're going. 2 hours later, they found a clearing. There was nothing but grass and stone. This is it? Jake asked. Velara didn't speak. She knelt beside Nia and touched the glowing symbol on her daughter's wrist. A deep hum rose from beneath the earth. Then, the grass began to move. Not with wind, but with force. A metal door rose from the ground. Covered in dust and moss, but still alive. Jake stepped forward. How's it still powered? Velara gave a small smile. This place was made by the old kings. Royal blood opens it. They stepped inside. The air was warm. The walls glowed with soft blue light. Strange symbols floated in the air like holograms. Jake stared in silence. This isn't just a base. Velara nodded. It's a memory core, a place where secrets were kept safe. Jake laid Nia on a smooth stone bed in the center of the room. Machines scanned her immediately. Gentle lights moved over her body. Then the walls changed. Images appeared, moving pictures, floating mid-air. Jake saw planets, wars, strange creatures. Then he saw himself as a child, strapped to a chair, injected with something glowing. Jake took a step back. That's me. That's me. Velara looked at him. Now you understand. They used you. You were part of Project Titan, an experiment to breed the perfect hybrid. Jake clenched his fists. I don't remember any of this. You weren't meant to, she said. They erased your memories, but your DNA remembers. That's why Nia is so strong. Jake turned to his daughter, because she was his daughter now. Suddenly, Nia opened her eyes, but they were no longer just glowing. They were showing stars. Nia sat up slowly. Her voice was soft, almost echoing. They are coming. All of them, from the black side of the moon. Jake and Velara exchanged glances. What do you mean? Jake asked. Nia blinked. Her voice was still distant. They will burn the earth too. Find me. They have already told the council. Velara froze. The royal council? Nia nodded. They said, only one royal child may live, and I am not on the list. The lights in the base dimmed. A deep voice echoed from the wall. Warning, incoming energy signal. Enemy vessel approaching from orbit. Jake stepped forward. Can we fight them? Velara looked unsure. Not alone. Nia stood now, her strength returning faster than expected. I can lead you, she said. Jake looked at her, confused. Lead? Nia pointed at the center of the room. A hidden panel opened. Inside was a weapon, unlike anything Jake had seen. Part metal, part crystal. It shimmered as if alive. Velara gasped. That is the Starbreaker. It only answers to royalty. Nia looked at Jake. You hold it. Jake stepped back. Me? You are the bridge, Nia said. You are both. Jake reached out. The weapon pulsed. It rose into his hand like it belonged there. Valara stared in disbelief. It chose you. Suddenly, the wall shook. Outside, a ship began landing in. The distance. Jake held the weapon tighter. Nia said quietly, "My secret is not just power." She looked into her father's eyes. It's prophecy. Betrayal. From above, the night sky cracked open. A glowing tear in the stars spread wide above the forest, revealing a ship, smooth, golden, and enormous, shaped like a blade cutting through the clouds. Valara fell to her knees the moment she saw it. Jake grabbed her arm. "What is it?" she whispered without looking up. "It's a royal flagship. My people, they found us." Jake looked at Nia. She stood still, staring at the sky, her eyes unreadable. The ship hovered silently above the earth. Then, a single pod dropped from its underbelly. A capsule of light descending like a falling star. It landed softly on the field near the old alien base. A moment of silence. Then the pod opened. Out stepped a tall figure in a white and gold uniform. His face was sharp, almost too perfect. Long silver hair flowed behind his shoulders, and his glowing eyes scanned the ground like a hunter. Valara stood slowly. Her voice shook. "Brother." Jake narrowed his eyes. "That's him?" Valara nodded. "High Commander Therion of Xanthari." "Prime, my brother." Jake raised his weapon. "The one who sent the hunters?" Valara didn't answer. She walked toward the field, her hands raised, palms out. Peaceful, hopeful. Therion approached her. He did not smile. "You're still alive," he said coldly. Valara nodded. "I had no choice but to flee. I did what I had to." "You broke the laws of the blood," he said. "And you gave birth to an abomination." Valara's face hardened. "She is not an abomination. She is hope." Therion stepped closer. "Hope? You were born into power. You threw it away for a half-blood." Jake stepped forward. "Careful who you're talking about." Therion turned to Jake and stared. "So this is the father." Jake didn't blink. "That's right." Therion smiled, a sharp, false thing. "Good," he said. "That makes this easy." Before anyone could react, a beam of blue energy hit Jake's chest and sent him flying backward. Nia screamed. Valara rushed to Jake, but Therion raised a hand. An invisible force held her in place. "You always believed in mercy," he said. "That's why you're weak." Nia stood now, eyes glowing. "You hurt him," she said. Therion looked at her with disgust. "You should not exist." Nia raised her hand, but a red collar appeared around her neck in a blink of light. She collapsed. Jake groaned, crawling to his feet. "You call yourself family?" Therion walked toward him. "I am cleaning her mistake. You are just the final piece." He raised a weapon. Suddenly the ground trembled. The base below roared to life. A surge of energy cracked the field. Nia's eyes opened again, brighter than before. She was resisting. "Stop him!" she cried. Valara broke free from the force holding her. She leapt forward, pulling out a hidden blade from her sleeve and slashing Therion's arm. He screamed, not in pain, but in anger. "You've chosen death," he hissed. "No," Valara said. "I've chosen my family." Jake stood beside her now, bruised but still standing. The Starbreaker blade glowed in his hand. Therion stepped back. "You think that weapon will save you? It's from our world. It won't work for a half-blood." Jake pointed it forward. The weapon ignited. Therion's eyes widened. "It doesn't just work," Jake said. "It chose me." Above, the golden ship turned dark. Alarms blared in its belly. More pods began to drop, soldiers, hundreds of them. Valara looked at Jake. "We can't fight them all, but we can run. There's another base in the eastern ridge, old but hidden." Jake nodded. "Then we run." He grabbed Nia in his arms. The three of them fled into the trees, just as the second wave of pods hit the ground behind them. Therion stood in the smoking grass, holding his bleeding arm. "Let them run," he said. "I want them to see what happens when a galaxy forgets its place." In orbit, a shadow moved past the moon. A second ship, darker than night, waking from deep sleep, and inside it, something ancient opened its eyes. The truth about Jake, the cave walls were alive, not moving but remembering as Jake. Velara and Nia entered the hidden base beneath the eastern ridge. Strange lights began to glow in the stone. Symbols lit up, one after another, in a language older than Velara's people. Jake stepped forward. The ground itself responded. Velara stopped walking. Her face changed. "This place," she whispered. "This isn't just a base, it's a vault." "A vault for what?" Jake asked. She looked at him. For the first ones, they moved deeper inside. Doors opened without being touched. Lights followed Jake's footsteps. Velara's hands trembled. "No one has been here in over 1,000 years. Only royalty may enter." And yet, she turned to Jake. "You're not just part Centauri." Jake laughed nervously. "You told me I was some hybrid science experiment." "I was wrong," she said. "You're something else." They reached a chamber shaped like a sphere, walls covered in moving stars. In the center stood a tall, black monolith. Jake stepped toward it. It pulsed with light. Velara grabbed his arm. "Wait, this place responds to bloodlines. If you touch it." Jake touched it. The room exploded with light. A voice filled the chamber. Not male, not female, just ancient. Subject recognized, lineage traced, not to Centauri, but to Proto-Origin code. Velara gasped. "That's not possible." Jake staggered back. "What does that mean?" The monolith changed. Now, it showed images, not memories. History. A planet, not Earth. A war older than any known. A race of beings made of light and matter. Powerful, wise, they created life, galaxies, DNA. Then, they vanished. But before they disappeared, they left something behind. A code. A seed. One day, it would be reborn. Velara watched in silence. Her voice cracked. "Jake, you're not a product, you're a carrier." "A carrier of what?" he asked. "The origin." Nia stepped forward. Her eyes wide, but calm. "I saw it in my dreams," she said. "The golden tree. The fire in the stars. The man with a sleeping soul." She looked at Jake. "You're not just my father. You're the key to waking everything." Jake didn't speak. He didn't know how. Suddenly, alarms echoed through the chamber. "Warning, enemy signal detected. Command ship Therion approaching. 2 minutes to surface contact." Jake turned to Velara. "Then this isn't the final truth. There's more." Velara nodded. "Yes, the truth isn't just who you are." She pointed to the glowing wall, now showing Earth from space. "It's why you were hidden here." Back in orbit, Therion stood before a control screen. "The vault is opening," he said. "The origin carrier has touched the stone." A soldier stepped forward. "Shall we destroy the site?" Therion shook his head. "No, he needs to walk in willingly. He needs to awaken the weapon." Meanwhile, deep inside the vault, the monolith showed one last vision, a future Earth, on fire, its skies black and ships blotting out the sun. Then a single man stands in the center of it all, holding a blade made of light and memory. Jake. And behind him, Nia, floating, glowing, alive. Jake whispered, "Is this who I am?" Velara placed a hand on his shoulder. "No," she said. "This is who you must become." The final stand, the stars had gone silent. Above Earth, the sky was no longer blue. It was shadowed by hundreds of black ships. They didn't fire. They didn't speak. They simply hovered, waiting. Inside the ancient vault, Jake stood before the glowing monolith. the starbreaker pulsing in his hand like a heartbeat. He looked at Nia, his daughter, now floating a few inches above the ground, her hair lifted by invisible winds. Her eyes full of galaxies, Valara stood between them, her face calm, but her fingers shaking. "We don't have time," she said. "Therion is waiting for you to act." Jake clenched his jaw. "Then let's disappoint him." The vault doors opened with a sound like thunder. Jake stepped out first, no longer a farmer, no longer a man running from the past. Now, he walked as something more. A bridge between worlds. At the edge of the forest stood Therion, surrounded by elite Zenthari soldiers. They wore armor of black chrome and carried weapons shaped like blades made of sound. Therion raised his hand. The soldiers aimed. Then he shouted, "Do not fire." He walked toward Jake. "You finally understand what you are," Therion said. "But you're too late. The council has decided. Earth will fall." Jake raised the starbreaker. It burned with white-blue light. "Not while I'm standing." Behind Jake, Nia floated forward. The air around her shimmered. Trees bent slightly from the pressure. She raised one hand toward the sky. A single word left her lips: "Stop," and the fleet above Earth froze. Inside each alien ship, systems blinked red. Energy interference detected. Signal override. Failing. Therion's eyes went wide. "She's channeling the source." "That's impossible. She's just a child." Valara stepped beside Jake. "No, she is the next step. She carries what we forgot." Therion roared. "Enough of this." He charged forward, drawing his own blade, twin to the starbreaker. Jake met him in the middle. Blades clashed. Sparks flew. The forest lit up with light and sound. Steel met energy. Training met instinct. Therion was fast, strong, ruthless. But Jake was something else. He remembered, not just combat, but who he was meant to be. At the final blow, Jake disarmed Therion and pinned him to the ground. The starbreaker hovered inches from his brother-in-law's throat. "Finish it," Therion hissed, but Jake looked at Nia. She shook her head. "That's not who we are." Jake stepped back. Valara walked forward. "Your war is over, brother. There's no place for tyrants in the future." Therion closed his eyes. "Then let me fade." The ships above slowly began to power down. Nia lifted her arms again. This time her light spread across the sky, and for the first time, the clouds broke. Sunlight touched the earth again. Hours later, the Zenthari soldiers surrendered peacefully. Therion was taken away, not as a prisoner of war, but as a lesson in history. Valara returned to the council to speak of peace. Jake stayed on Earth, with Nia, who was now seen as both a symbol of unity and something more. A whisper across the stars began to spread. The Origin has returned, not as a weapon, but as a father. One final scene. Jake sits on the porch of his old farmhouse. Nia plays in the field, drawing symbols in the grass. Valara steps beside him. "She's growing stronger every day," Jake says. Valara smiles. "So are you." They sit in silence, watching the sunset. This time, the sky holds no fear, only stars.